Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be reviewing this new eyeshadow palette by Miss Claire. This is the Naked Natural Nudes Eye Color palette, and I saw this palette for the first time on Habana.com, not Habana.com, but they're on Insta account. They posted about this and they said that this was exclusively available on their site, and yeah, this palette intrigued me. I checked on their website and I think right now, like the last time I checked, they have 3 versions of this palette. So they have 3 different varieties of this palette, and I chose Natural Nudes for myself. Now this palette retails for 990 rupees, which I think is a little expensive for Miss Claire. I know the Maybelline Nudes palette come for around $8.99, but again not very expensive. You get 12 eyeshadow in this palette, and this is how the outer packaging looks like. On the back side you have the names of the eyeshadows on the outer packaging, and you also have the names of the eyeshadow on the actual palette itself on the back side, which is nice because even if you are going to throw it away, you would have the names of the palette on the back side of the palette, which is convenient. And the palette itself comes in this tin packaging. Now this is not something new. Sivana has a palette like this. I think BH Cosmetics also have a palette like this, not sure, but this whole tin packaging concept was first done by Urban Decay, their Naked palette, and that is what this palette reminds me of. By the way, I've never done any eyeshadow palette review before, so I'll try my level best to do justice to this review or to this palette. I'll just quickly go through the shade names. We have Highlight, Desert, Camel, Sand, Brownie, Bronze, Storm, Dust, Wave, Thunder, Sky, and Onyx. So those are the shade names, and you also get this brush in the palette where you have a flat shader sort of a brush on one side and a sponge tip applicator on the other. This is quite nice. This sponge, not sponge, I mean this flat shader side is nice, but the only problem is it's quite small, so you would take a lot longer to fill in your entire lid with this brush, but otherwise you can use this brush. And coming to the actual packaging itself, the tin is okay, like the tin packaging is nice, but this thing, like the actual packaging in which the shadows are rested, are not very sturdy. I don't know if you can see, but this moves. I mean, of course I'm moving it right now, but even if I turn the palette, this black casing just keeps moving up and down. So that's something I wanted to mention about this palette. Now what I have done with the review of this palette is I've shown you the swatches of all of these colors on my eyelids. I know everybody does hand or finger swatches and then brush swatches, but to me I feel like we never apply any eyeshadow like that. We always go at least 2 to 3 times to get one even layer, and then we add more to get more pigmentation. So that's how I've done the swatches of all of these shadows. So first in the video or the clip which you'll see afterwards, after I'm done talking, is I've swatched all the colorful shimmery shades in the palette, and then I've swatched the mattes, this highlight shade, and at the end I've swatched the black shade. I'm not going to talk about every single eyeshadow in this palette right now because you will see the swatches later on, but I'll just talk about the matte eyeshadow. So the first one we have the matte eyeshadow. The first matte eyeshadow is called as Highlight, and this one just does not show up on your skin as a shadow. Like, of course I've rubbed it and that's why it's looking like this, but you'll see in the swatches it does not show up like a shadow. It's more of like a setting your eyelids with this shadow kind of a shadow, if that makes sense. And then we have this shade which is called as Sand. Now, the problem I have with this color, which is Sand, is that it did show up, like it did show up as a crease color, but only after layering it for 3 to 4 times, and it was not very dark enough on the crease. So I was just thinking, if you have darker skin tone, I don't think this color is going to be a good transition color for you because it's not dark enough, and even if you layer it, it won't show that well in your crease. So keep in mind, if you have darker skin tone, you might not find a perfect transition shade in this palette for you. And the last matte shade we have in this palette is this shade which is called as ONYX, and I am highly impressed with this shade. But if you compare how it feels when you kind of swatch it, it does feel more powdery when compared to these two matte eyeshadows, but the pigmentation is amazing. You can do such beautiful smoky eye with this. You will see this color in the swatch as well. So those were all the three matte eyeshadows in the palette. I'm not going to talk individually about all the shimmery shades, but I'll say that all the shades are very nicely pigmented. All the shades are very buttery, to the point where if you touch these quite hard, these start to crumble a little bit, so you have to be very careful. So I don't have any complaint with the shimmery shades. These are quite pigmented. And one more thing which I've noticed with this palette is, even though the shades are quite pigmented, these don't turn out to be very bold on the eyes. Like, these don't turn out to be super saturated in your face kind of colors on your eyes. So if you don't like such kind of looks where the shadow is just extremely bold and bright, and if you like more of a muted shadows but you still want some color, this palette is a great option. So my final thoughts on this palette, I would say I really like the palette. I just wish there were 2 crease shades. The only problem I have in this palette is that I just don't like this color a lot, and this is the only color which I can work with on my crease. So I know that if I'm using this palette, I will have to grab some other color for my crease. And the shimmery shades are quite nice as well. These are very soft and muted. I've already mentioned that. So whom would I recommend this palette? I would say if you love extremely saturated, bold, you know, those Instagram kind of eye makeup looks, this palette might not be the right palette for you, because of the same reason. These don't show up very saturated, very bold colors on your eyes. These look very soft and muted. As on the other hand, if you do love that kind of look where it's not that harsh, it's not that bold, you want something very soft as your eyelid color, I think this palette would be amazing for you. I definitely see myself reaching out for this palette on a day-to-day occasion. This is not a palette I would go for when I'm attending a wedding or I'm going to an event or something like that. So yeah, but again, if you want to use this palette on such occasions, you can do whatever you want to. It's just what I feel about this palette. So yeah, all in all, I do really like this palette. I hope this video was helpful, and give this video a big thumbs up because it took me very long to edit and film the eye swatches, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.